Legends of Rome, which began the city's history. Although our knowledge is uncertain, it is highly possible Petilius Cerialis, governor of Britain and a veteran of Boadicea's revolt, saw that the neck of land between the River Ouse and the River Foss was a perfect site for a Roman fortress, easily defended and covering the only crossing of the Ouse in the last 90 miles of the river's course. York became the anchor of the defences of Imperial Rome's northwest frontier, the most northerly bastion of Roman civilization. The stone-walled garrison fortress on one side of the River Ouse was joined by a bridge to a civilian town, a settlement for traders, retired legionaries, and the camp followers who are always to be found around garrisons. The Romans called the city Eboracum, and its stone walls protected a prosperous town with mosaic pavements, good drains, and the luxuries of Roman culture. Occasionally, there was trouble on the frontier, and a particularly serious revolt may have wiped out the 9th Legion within 60 years of the founding of the city. The Emperor Hadrian came here to deal with it, and built Hadrian's Wall to the north to make sure it couldn't happen again. York's fortress housed a new legion, the 6th. The centuries passed, and emperors came and went in distant Rome, occasionally arriving in York with armies on campaign. Tough old Septimius Severus, who died here in 211 AD, and Constantius Chlorus, who also died here in 306. His son, Constantine, was proclaimed emperor by his troops here, touching off a bloody civil war which engulfed the Roman Empire. The end result was that Constantine became emperor and proclaimed Christianity as the state religion of Rome, thereby ensuring that Christianity became the most important religion in medieval Europe. This was an epoch-making step for European civilization. Fragments of Roman Eboracum, some from Constantine's time, evoke its imperial past. The multangular tower was commissioned by Constantine's father, Constantius Chlorus, to strengthen the fortress against the menace of Saxon pirates. Now roofless, its small, neat Roman masonry with brick strengthening bands is typical of late imperial work. The Roman bath is even older, from about 150 AD. It was found under a city centre pub, and here legionaries steamed out the aches and pains of a hard day's marching in full armour. The restored Roman pillar is now set up opposite the minster. It came from the Roman headquarters building, or Principia, which was right under where the minster now stands. This pillar's stones probably witnessed the dramatic raising of the young Constantine to the imperial purple in 306. Today, archaeologists are uncovering more of the secrets of Eboracum, laying bare streets and buildings buried for centuries. Smaller articles created by long-dead craftsmen give a hint of the people of that long-ago imperial city on Rome's northwest frontier. Between 400 and 600 AD, records are sparse. The Roman Empire shrank, while Angles and Saxons pushed across the North Sea and up the rivers in pirate boats. They settled, setting up 7 kingdoms, one of which, Northumbria, controlled York. The remains of their town, called Eophowic, were found in 1986, outside the Roman defences, at the junction of the River Ouse and the River Foss. Our picture of Anglian York is still vague, and only one structure from the period survives above ground, the Anglian Tower, close to the Roman Multangular Tower. Beside it, archaeologists have cut away the bank of the city walls to reveal the many layers of building and rebuilding which have gone on over the centuries. After 800, Scandinavian Vikings, raiding across the North Sea, conquered the Kingdom of Northumbria. For 2 generations after 874, Vikings ruled in York, or Jorvik as they called it. Here in York, we have a unique window into their culture and lifestyle of 1,000 years ago. In the late 1970s, archaeologists digging on the site for this new shopping centre in Coppergate found one of the most important Viking sites ever, with materials superbly preserved in the waterlogged ground. Careful redesign of the new shopping centre resulted in the preservation of the site as the heart of the Jorvik Viking Centre, a wonderful museum which recreates Viking life as it was lived on the site 1,000 years ago. It is complete with the sounds, smells and everyday sights of long-ago Jorvik. Viking York was prosperous, thriving and very smelly. It was the biggest city in England after London, crowded with traders and craftsmen, and the Jorvik Viking Centre brings this long-lost incarnation of York vividly to life. But prosperous Anglo-Scandinavian York was in for a big shock. In 1066, England was threatened by twin invasions, one from Norway, led by King Harald Hardrada, and another from Normandy, led by Duke William. The saintly King Edward the Confessor had died in London childless, and his successor, chosen by the English nobles, was Harold Godwinson. William of Normandy, Edward's nephew, claimed the throne, and Harold Godwinson's brother Tostig, a former Earl of Northumbria exiled for his violence, had persuaded the Norwegians to invade northern England. Hardrada got here first, destroying Scarborough on the way, and then defeating the northern English army under the Earls Edwin and Morcar at Fulford, just outside York. York was about to surrender to the invading Norwegians, but help was at hand. Harold Godwinson, moving his army north at the then incredible rate of 20 miles a day, surprised Harold Hardrada at Stamford Bridge. By nightfall, the Norwegian army was nearly wiped out. Hardrada, a conqueror from the Baltic to the eastern Mediterranean, was dead with an arrow in his throat. Harold Godwinson's faithless brother, Earl Tostig, was dead too. A great victory feast was held the day after in York, but the celebrations were short-lived. At the feast, Harold Godwinson received the news that William had landed on the south coast. His army hurried south and paid the price for its victory at Stamford Bridge on the bloody field of Hastings. Harold was killed and his army destroyed, and Duke William, now King William the Conqueror, ruled England. William and his land-hungry Norman followers were resented. In York, William had taken land and demolished houses to build two castles, one on each side of the river approaches. In 1069 and 1071, York rebelled, and York's Norman castles were stormed and burnt, their garrisons massacred. It was the most serious rebellion William the Conqueror ever had to face. His vengeance was pitiless. York was besieged and stormed, and the north lay helpless under the iron heel of his anger. York was burnt, and its Saxon minster destroyed. Half the population was massacred, and the process was repeated throughout Yorkshire. The new rulers were alien, stern and unforgiving, but they were efficient, and under the Normans and their successors, the French Plantagenets, medieval York was to reach a peak of prosperity and greatness.